Hello, this is just a little reminder video on how to tell analog time. It can be a wee bit tricky for some people, and I think the reason that most people find it tricky is the fact that we're seeing both hours and minutes shown on one face at the same time. And that can be quite confusing to imagine that the number 1 on the clock face also represents 5 minutes. So I guess one way you could think about it is technically there's 2 faces going on at the same time, but they've just been merged together to make one face, because I guess really you could make a clock that had an hour's face and a minute's face, but it would maybe look quite strange. Can you imagine a big watch that had 2 faces? That would look really weird. So I guess that's maybe the reason we don't see those. So what we can do just now though, is let's just have a wee look and think about it this way though, as if they did exist like this. And what I would maybe think about first is I like to choose one hand to look at first, and it might be your minutes hand, it might be your hours hand, it depends which one you want to look at first. Just remember the minutes hand is the longer one. In this case it's going to be blue as well. So let's say for example you can look straight at your minutes hand, you can see straight away that it's pointing down to the 30-minute mark. So obviously it's 1/2 something, so as soon as you look at that you can see that if it was round here, if it was 30-minute mark, that would also just appear as a 6 because that's the number that's down the bottom there. And then it would appear somewhere on the hours hand too, so you'd have your hours hand in a different position too. So let's say it was maybe between the 4 and the 5. So because that's exactly halfway around this clock face, should be exactly between the 2 numbers. So straight away you could have a look and see, right, I'll have a look at the minutes first, I can see it's at 30 minutes, and if I have a look at the hours I can see that it's after the 4, so it must be 30 minutes past the 4 or 4:30. And we could obviously write that down as a digital time, and it could be AM or it could be PM. It just depends, because these types of clocks of course don't actually give us any sort of indication whether it is morning or afternoon or evening. So we can't tell from these clocks usually, which is quite tricky sometimes. So that's how we would tell it using this sort of method if you wanted to think about it as 2 faces. But as we know, clocks don't often or ever really appear this way, where you've got hours in one hand and minutes in another. So what we will do is we'll have a wee look at how that would appear together. Okay, so here we have the clock faces you would usually see it. So I've taken both of my clock faces and I've pushed them together to make one clock face. And what I've done in the blue writing is I've shown you the minutes all the way around, and I've got the hours all the way around on the inside too, just to remind you what all of these numbers actually represent in minutes too, because we don't often ever see the minutes going round the outside unless it's a sort of teaching clock or something like that. Generally you just have the numbers 1 to 12 round it. So let's have a wee look again. So let's say we've got our minutes hand, which was blue before. Let's say that it was pointing to the 11. Let's see, it was pointing up there. And let's say that our hours hand was pointing, it would be somewhere, let's say down here. Let's say it's almost at the 7. So the red one's going to be our hour hand, and the blue one's going to be our minutes hand. Obviously though, it should actually be a wee bit longer than minutes hand. It should be longer than the hour hand. Okay, so here's our time now. So it's almost at the 7 o'clock, but it's also at the 11 o'clock here. So remember, blue hand is our minutes hand. If I'm looking at my minutes hand straight away, I would tend to personally, I look at the minutes first and then the hour, but you can do it either way. And I would have a wee look, I would say, right, okay, it's 55, I know that straight away. So it's 55 minutes past something, I guess you can think about it as. And it is almost at the 7, so it's not actually at the 7 yet, so we're still within the 6 hour. So it must be 6:55, or you might say 5 to 7, because it's 5 minutes until we get to 7 o'clock once we get it back up here. So that's one time we could think about. What if we change it up a little bit though? And let's see if I made it, maybe let's say that our minutes hand this time is pointing up at the 5, and our hours hand is pointing at the just after the 11 o'clock, just after 11 there. Okay, so straight away I can have a look, I can see that there's 5 minutes past here, so there's just 5 minutes on the minutes hand here. And it wouldn't just be written as a 5 like that, obviously, it would be written as 05. So it's 5 minutes past, what time? Let's have a look. So it's just after the 11 o'clock, so it's gone right round and it's just past the 11 o'clock, so it's 11:05. And again, we don't know if it's PM, AM, we don't know, because these types of clocks don't generally tell us. Some might, but this one doesn't, unfortunately. I'm going to give you one more example, and I wonder if you can have a look at it. You might want to pause the video and think about, right, what time would that be, and then I'll tell you the answer in a little minute. So let's change the time. Let's make it make our minutes hand pointing down to here. And let's make our hours hand just after the 7 here. Okay, what time do you think that would be? Have a little look. Maybe pause your video first. Hopefully you maybe looked at your minutes first or your hour first. I can see that it's after 7 first, so it must be 7 something. So it's 7 past the 7 hour, and then I'll come round. It's on the number 4, which is the same as 20 minutes. So it's 7:20. And that's our time. I'll do one more as your last example, and then hopefully you can get on with your task today, but feel free to get in touch if you're still not too sure. I'd be more than happy to help you out. Right, this time let's say we are at, the minutes hand is pointing to the 9, which is also 45. And the hours hand is pointing to, let's say, almost the 9. Right, okay. Have a wee look, what time would that be, do you think? So you might have noticed that it's after the 8, so it's 8 something, so it's gone past 8, so it is 8 something. And then all you would have to do is look at where the minutes are. I can see the minutes are on the 9, which is the same as 45 minutes. Because remember, it's the 2 clock faces pushed together. And so you'd hopefully have 8:45, because it's after 8 and it's at the 45 minutes. Remember, get in touch if I can help with anything. I'll be more than happy to help. Good luck though.